Alright, this is a video by Oompaville. Nazis went digging for a hidden race. Because who doesn't love Nazis? Sorry, I don't. Because I'm not that sort of person. Alright, let's get into this.
Paris, France, 1886. Alexandre Santive Delvedra is standing over the only finished copies of the book he just finished writing.
He's a French guy. I guess French can be Nazis too.
And he is about to destroy them all. The whole edition is stacked in front of him, years of his life freshly off the press, and he gives the order to wipe it clean off the face of the earth. Every copy pulped, scrapped, and gone before a single stranger can open and read what's inside. Out of the entire print run, only
The plot thickens.
2 copies survive. One the printer secretly kept, and one Santive took home and hid. So the question is, what do you put in a book that makes you spend your own money to erase it the moment that you make it real?
Maybe French. Those guys are all unstable anyways.
A kingdom is the answer. A kingdom that Santive swore existed.
Wait. Macabre murders unsolved. Grave secrets unearthed. Because they're grave.
Hidden deep under the surface of the earth and older than every nation on the map, ruled by a king who could read any human
Verified-ish. Is this new?
mind like a page. Santive believed in it completely to the very end of his life, and the instant he'd written it all down where anybody could read it, something about it frightened him so badly, he decided to take
That's a little bit strange. Like, you put so much effort and money into, like,
it all back in fear.
Seems a bit capricious.
Santive never explained why, but whatever
Quixotic, even.
he thought he had touched did not stay buried with him, because half a century later, the most dangerous regime in human history went looking for it at the bottom of the world. And
So that makes sense. It's like he wasn't actually a Nazi. This would have been like, 50 years before that.
this is a video about that kingdom. Its name is Agartha. It is one of the strangest strings
The world is flat, and that's it.
that I have ever pulled on.
Is this type? I think this is a type of flat earther thing, right?
Because the further down the string you go, the bigger the names get, and the more things start adding up, I guess, if you are an insane person, maybe. This is true.
How dare you, sir?
Truly a ridiculous and scary and absurd rabbit hole. Please come along with me. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. You're gonna want to stick around for what's next. If you're old, may God have mercy on you. Comment down below what you want to see me cover in the next video.
Like, it is kind of strange. I guess it's just because it's an unfamiliar environment. It all seems so real. Also, maybe it's just because people come up with new ways to deceive people. You would think old people would be better at smelling out scams online, but I think a lot of times they kind of fall for it. And again, it's kind of a thing that they don't really know a lot about. So like, it's one of those things until you know what a thing is, it can be anything. It leaves a lot open to the wonder and the guilelessness of it all.
And this one
I think
starts with one obscure Frenchman. Then a Russian running for his life. Then a respected philosopher. Then a world-famous novelist.
There's a Russian running for his
Then
life.
a Russian running for his life. Then a respected philosopher. Then a world-famous novelist. Then the woman who basically invented modern occultism. And then eventually...
Which?
The SS, the Nazis. For 150 years...
So whatever reason, I thought SS just meant Secret Service, and I think that's what it was, but I'm not sure if that's what SS actually means. It's like Schutzstaffel something, I think.
People have hunted this place. A handful of them...
I was disappointed.
Swore that they found the door, but not one of them ever came back with a single brick. Maybe that's because it's being hidden. It's being suppressed. It's obfuscated. My favorite word. Either way, the evidence...
Obfuscated
has caused lots of people to believe it, and the lack of evidence
I don't know if I have a favorite word. I like all the words equally. Well, no, that's not true. Some sound better. Some are just nice to say. They're kind of pleasant.
Has pretty much not stopped anybody.
I wonder what makes it. I've theorized that the type of language a person's parents or ancestors might have spoken would actually kind of go into maybe how a person's mouth or stuff will develop. I have a theory that there might even be genetic components involved in taste, but make like different racial groupings have different tastes for different things. I feel like that's pretty intuitive. Like, again, like the way you use your mouth and the language you would speak would affect it. Because it is strange, like, think about this sometime. I've noticed that, like, second generation Indians or whatever, it's almost like, I don't know if there's a tendency for them to, even if they don't really have an accent per se, they have a certain lilt to the way they talk. I was thinking of Kamal something. Some comedian. There's just a certain, like, I don't even know if he's technically, maybe I think he's from Pakistan actually. But it does feel like there's a certain lilt to the way some Indian, like second generation Indians speak English. And I wonder if it would have to do with that, the way they actually develop their facial muscles or something like that, ancestrally speaking, would have to do with how they pronounce words. It's kind of strange.
From believing it, including supposedly the men running Nazi Germany. There's a ton of information about this on the internet, so I did my best to capture as much as I could and put it in one cohesive bundle. In terms of books, my library card's expired, and honestly, I can't really read. So the only book that I could really...
I can read. I choose not to. No, I still read some.
find that...
Mostly, though, I listen to, like, audiobooks and what stuff. No, yeah. And whatnot like that.
Traces the whole sort of thing from end to end is a very strange
I'm thinking, though, it would probably be better to actually read the stuff, because I do tend to think that there's... The notion would be that you're both looking at the words and I think the notion would be that if you read stuff out loud especially, or if you write stuff down, it maybe helps to stick in your memory, because you're kind of absorbing it through multiple thingies. You're absorbing it through multiple thingies.
Book from 1993 by a scholar named Jocelyn Godwin. He called it Arctos, and the place that this stops just being a weird old book and strange legend and story and starts being something a government would send ships and men to go find is Antarctica, and that's where we're going first. You guys know that I love...
Antarctic. So Antarctica, that's at the bottom, right? That's the southerly. That's the one that's actually a landmass.
Of Antarctica, all right. There's something up there, or down there rather. There's...
I knew better.
Something down there. It's bullshit. I'm going down there one of these days. The men who built the Nazi movement in the early 20th century weren't only...
Hitler's on ice in Antarctica. Rumors on imagination spree. What the... Buenos Aires, July 13th and July 18th. Imaginations have had a field day during the past 48 hours in Argentina. So, wait, so that's why they were in Argentina. There was a whole thing where a lot of Nazis went to South America. Maybe that was why, I don't know if they'd set up bases there or whatever. With a speculation that if Hitler may have crossed the Antarctic in a submarine. Argentine government clamped down on such excited thinking, declared there was absolutely no factual basis for the reports. The government announced that they would deliver the recently interned German U-boat 530 to the U.S. and Great Britain as recommended by the Foreign Ministry following an investigation. Unconfirmed reports said that said that two more Nazi submarines had been sighted off the Argentinian coast, while the public, amused themselves speculating on the possibility that some high Nazi Nazis might have been landed by the U-53 along the desolate shores of Patagonia. So far, only the newspaper La Clepetete has openly implied that Hitler and his sweetheart, Eva Braun, might have landed in Hitler's Antarctic Birch Island in the Antarctic Circle. The paper had a map with a caption, Hitler refuged on the sixth continent. Fancy that. Well, there was some sort of thing recently where I think it supposedly hit 100 degrees in the Arctic Circle. Fancy that. Global warming. We're all gonna die.
Obsessed with conquering the real known world that actually exists, but a surprising number of them were obsessed with a world that supposedly doesn't exist. Before the party ever held any
or so the globetards want you to believe.
Real power, it grew up tangled together with a whole subculture of German occult societies and groups that taught that the German people were the last living remnant of an ancient master race. You've probably heard.
Feels good to be part of the master race. Well, I don't even know. Probably-ish.
Heard of that idea.
Probably-ish part of the master race.
For a race that had come down out of the lost paradise in the frozen north. And that the secret of that race's godlike power was still out there somewhere. Probably not to the north, but rather down south, because Antarctica is down south. The north has just got Santa up there. And that shit was just waiting to be dug up, they thought. And the story that...
At what point, I know there was St. Nicholas. At what point did Santa become a denizen of the northerly pole? At what point did the historical things, put him up there? I guess it was just an easy way of, keeping the dream alive in the minds of kids, perhaps? They'd probably ask, oh, where does he live? Well, not somewhere you can visit, kiddo. At least not until you get older.
It has been told for the better part of a century is that when the Nazis finally went hunting for it, they went to the one place on Earth that almost no human had ever set foot. Antarctica. Schwabenland! In the winter of 1930.
What the what? So that's what they called it. Schwabenland. Does it just literally mean Southland? Well, no. So this is technically a part of Antarctica. This is the Sudpol. So no, it doesn't mean South. I'm assuming this is South Pole, right? New Schwabenland. So this is something that was in Germany that they just created a new version of it. I guess we can't talk. A lot of the states and whatnot and crap were named after European stuff.
Hitler's government sent a secret expedition to the bottom of the world. A ship called the Schwabenland.
Bottom.
With seaplanes catapulted right off its deck. And as they flew, the crew dropped heavy metal lawn darts stamped with the swastika into the ice below, claiming a slice of the continent and renaming it New Schwabia. That is real. That is documented history. That's in the record. I'm not making that up for clicks and wipes. I'm all about wiping now. Swiping. And the legend that grew up around it says that they were...
Oh, it's adorable. Let's kill it.
Not down there for the ice or the cute little penguins or even the land. They were hunting for...
You just left the seals out of it? Those guys are adorable.
Door. A way into a kingdom that supposedly sat beneath the surface of the planet. And that kingdom is Agartha. And if you take the believers at their word, it is an entire civilization with millions and...
For whites and by whites.
Millions and millions of people.
Ruled by its king, the mass...
By the most repeated...
I take it back. It's a monarchy. I don't trust that no matter how white it is.
Count online that you can find 800 million in cities lit by their own underground sun, with universities and aircraft and a web of tunnels running under the whole world. Already doing all of that while we were up here trying to get filament to not explode when we put it in a light bulb. And at the center of all of it, a throne and a ruler the believers call the king of the world. A being who they say can read any human soul like an open page. And the source of the whole kingdom's power.
Okay, this is getting crazier. Initially, I just thought this was a nice place for white people to live, and we could go to get away from all of the darkness. Sorry.
The thing
It's getting weirder, though. It's getting a lot weirder.
that supposedly lets them heal a dying man 1 minute and level a city the next minute is an energy its masters run straight through their own bodies, and the believers have a name for it. They call it Vril, like krill, but with a V and with
This seems very extensive. Very complex.
much deeper ties to white
Very fleshed out as a conspiracy theory.
supremacy. That, the story says, is what the Nazis were really chasing down under the ice. The lost energy type of battery of an ancient master race. What's crazy is that I've heard so much of this stuff growing up and spending time on the internet and hearing people talk about it. Like they have the acorn, the glockenspiel. I don't think that's what it's called, but Nazi
Not sure what a glockenspiel actually is.
occultism is very interesting, and they believed in some wild shit. I love the images of
Meredith Lake.
Agartha, by the way. It is really
Okay, that's just mean.
funny to me. There's also
All right, okay, am I tripping?
the
That
images of Agartha, by the way. It is
is supposed to be Charlie Kirk, right? I'm just saying that like maybe I'm the goofy one there. That looks like Charlie Kirk to me, though.
really funny to me. There's also a prophecy, and that
I think you would laugh at it, probably.
prophecy is ticking down and will come into effect apparently in the year 2030, which is in 4 years or something. You see, the lore
Y'all 3.5 or something? I don't know.
says the kingdom left
No, he's right. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, 3.5, because we're halfway through 2026. I was thinking wrong, but I was right. So I was thinking somehow this is 2027. No, this is 2026. Next year is, yeah.
the surface people, us, a prophecy more than a century ago. There would be 50 years of chaos, then a stretch of false peace, then one final war. And at the end of it, the people of the kingdom would come up out of the ground and take the surface back. Kind of like that video game where those mole people came out of the ground or whatever.
Don't remember that.
That shit was on Xbox. I don't have any other memories beyond that. Now, how much of this is
Do you want actually, it's complete tangent. You know that PlayStation discontinued disc drives or whatever, like, or physical hardware, which is I think it's one of the dumbest moves you could possibly do. Like, and maybe I'm the crazy one here, but I just feel like one of the things that kind of set them apart, that made them a option for people, was that they did have physical media, right? They were the other option because they had physical media. That was a huge advantage to them. They're one of the few, platforms out there that were still going with that. And now that they're not doing that anymore, they're just like any other platform. And like, the question is, can they compete with other platforms? Like PC, as far as digital media, is pretty dang good, right? As far as like customizability, and I'm pretty sure with regards to just like the consoles themselves, like PCs outstrip them in every conceivable metric. I think they're starting to do like exclusives again, which I think that's some sort of gimmick to get people on PlayStation. But again, like, I feel like they already had that gimmick, and that gimmick was physical media. At least a huge part of it was. A huge part of that appeal to consoles was, hey, guess what? We can buy stuff in disc form and just own the game. What's wrong with you? Why would you do this to yourselves?
true? Take a guess right now. We're gonna get all the way to the bottom of it, I promise. Okay, guys? But first, to understand why any modern-ish government would take any of it seriously enough to send an entire ship and crew, you gotta actually understand where the idea of this kingdom came from. The idea of an underground civilization, not just Agartha, specifically, or Asgartha, or...
Okay, American pipe dream. That makes sense.
Asgard,
That's funny.
or whatever the other names it has. It's a pretty big idea that
Okay.
Asgard, idea this kingdom came from. The idea of an underground civilization, not just Agartha, specifically, or Asgartha, or Asgard, or whatever the other names it has. It's a pretty big idea that a ton of civilizations and cultures have pondered. The idea of an underworld. The Greeks, the Hindi people.
Was that what Journey to the Center of the Earth was about? Was it something else? As it says, maybe there are multiple renditions of that.
Had one called, I forget what it was called. It starts with a P, though. But specifically with Agartha, it comes
Hades? No,
from the man
that's something else.
that we opened this video with. The fellow who wrote it all down and then tried to just take it back, I guess. He had some severe guilt over it.
It's a goofy haircut. I guess there's no accounting for fashion. Just changes.
Or something like that. So let's go back to Santiv, alone with that doomed book. The book was called Mission de India, his mission from India. And in it, he laid out Agartha in astonishing detail. This guy was like the Tolkien of the French. A hidden land.
Populations
Beneath the surface, ruled, in Godwin's words, the person who wrote the book back in 1983, by a supreme pontiff of Ethiopian race styled the Brahmata, with millions of subjects, a secret society of masters that Santiv believed really should be running the world, with a system he called synarchy, which is ruled by an enlightened council working from the shadows. And he said that he
some commie gobbledygook.
knew all of this because a
I don't know, it just sounds kind of
mysterious teacher had appeared in his life, taught him a lost sacred language, and then vanished. And when Godwin later on went looking for who that
sure it wasn't kind of a nut bar,
teacher actually was,
some crackpot. I don't know.
the most he could conclude was, nobody knows. But anyways, this is still he could conclude was, nobody knows.
Because they burned it all. Huh?
But anyways, this was still taken very seriously by the Nazis and then us allegedly after World War II. So it's still worth talking about. Okay. Also, Santiv wasn't even first. Godwin traced the word Agartha itself back 13 years earlier. By the way, at that point, that was the first time the word had ever been uttered by anybody. It was originally traced to a French judge named Louis Jacolliot, who in 1873 wrote about an ancient lost city that he spelled Asgartha, based on manuscripts that conveniently no other living person has ever managed to
That's Asgartha.
find.
Sounds like a very terrible. No, I'm thinking of Agatha. So I was just thinking of like a really terrible female name. There's some names that just, I don't know why or how, but they just sound like a frumpy middle-aged woman. Agatha being one of them. Esther.
This guy was like the Joseph Smith of France.
I don't know why or how, but maybe it's just the people you know that have that name. But
And Jacolliot City was not underground. Santiv took Jacolliot City, buried it underground, and then filled it in with more lore. And then Godwin obviously wrote about all this many, many, many years later. Given all of this, Godwin, a careful scholar, did not think that Santiv was lying. A con man would have tried to sell the secret. Santiv tried to erase the secret, and Godwin comes down on the side of belief. He writes, I believe that Santiv did see what he described, and that he did not consider himself to the slightest degree to be writing fiction, which makes the burning book stranger, not less strange.
it is a little bit strange. I guess yeah. You would have to clarify some sort of motivation for burning the book as to why. Maybe they're insane, but maybe they genuinely believed it. Maybe they thought there was some truth there. Maybe they were wrong, or maybe they were right.
Strange. So this is just a really confusing tale overall. Then, quite a few years later, in 1922,
no, people make similar. I guess I was thinking of the parallel between, like, the notion of what happens in the Bible. Obviously, you have people claiming to see God resurrected. And there are some pretty logical arguments with regards to that as to, like, the afterlives of the apostles, of the people involved. They didn't exactly gain a lot of clout off the back of Jesus dying and coming back from the dead. They were actually quite, a lot of them were persecuted. I think a lot of them were martyred. It's a saying that liars make poor martyrs. So the notion is that if you do something like that, if you're willing to die for an idea, it's quite likely that at the very least you believe it's the case. All right? So in this case, obviously, you have a guy who claims to have seen something who doesn't necessarily want to make money off of it. At least on the face of it, that's what it seems like. So either he believes it and he's insane, or he's right, or there's some mixture, or maybe there's some unknown third element involved. Maybe the government got to him. Some crap, I don't know.
The story had its second witness, and finally the prophecy. A Polish scientist named Ferdynand Ossendowski. By the way, we have 3 credible...
Here's a question. Why did Polish jokes become a thing? And why do we no longer hear them?
Men here, so far. 3 very credible people.
Let's just remember the Polish karate chop. You can like the video if you know that. No, it's yeah.
Sure, it was the 1800s. You could just lie about shit. You know, you could pad your resume with whatever
it's not something you discuss in mixed company.
you wanted, but we got 3.
It's not. Yeah, I guess it's not really vulgar per se. It's just not polite.
Legit guys with real good titles here. It's pretty impressive. So basically what I'm saying is it's probably real. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. Ossendowski was fresh off a genuine harrowing escape across Mongolia during the Russian Civil War. He was escaping the evil Bolsheviks. The man came home and wrote...
Yeah. Screw the proletariat.
A bestseller in which the local lamas had supposedly told him about a buried kingdom. He spelled it Agartha. 800 million subjects, a king of the world, and the prophecy. The one with the clock on it that ends in 2030. That all comes straight out of his book. In the 50th year, only 3 great kingdoms will appear, which will exist happily 71 years. Afterwards, there will be 18 years of war and destruction. Then the peoples of Agartha will come up from their subterranean caverns to the surface of the earth.
They're really rolling his R's there. You know, I can't do that, unfortunately. My tongue is long enough, so maybe I'm just envious, but it feels like he's playing into it a little bit.
End quote. That was a real recording of his voice. And get this, guys!
It's kind of fun. There's this David and Mitchell thing. It's like a sketch comedy bit where they were doing, like, they were somehow recreating the voices of these classic poems, or, I think it was Lord Byron's Charge the Light Brigade or something like that. Stormed out with soft and shell into the gates of death. He was just doing like the craziest over the top rendition of these old poems. It was kind of funny.
Ossendowski swore he had never read Santiv's version, which is pretty interesting. The 2 versions are very similar. Same name, pretty much, same general ideas, and those 2 versions have sat so closely together that real, genuine scholars have argued about it for 100 years. There's a pattern to this, you're probably starting to understand. Every new eyewitness to this ancient secret shows up right after the last man's book hits the shelves.
Huh.
Genius!
Sorry.
Real, genuine scholars have argued about it for 100 years. There's a pattern to this, you're probably starting to understand. Every new eyewitness to this ancient secret shows up right after the last man's book hits the shelves. Genius! And by 1927, a serious French philosopher, René Guénon, had recast Agartha as a symbolic spiritual center of the world, which made it pretty bulletproof, because you can't really mount an expedition to a spiritual metaphor, you know? You do, no matter what, you just come home empty-handed. But none of that by itself explains the Nazis' interest in Antarctica or, you know, the underworld civilization. And a lot of it came post-war. A lot of the ties were put together well after. So to understand more of that, you have...
So this is all still before World War II, right? I'm assuming that's the timeline here? This is all still happening, like the French philosopher even is
to understand the other half of the legend, which is the power, Vril. Vril did not come from a monastery or a lost manuscript. It came from a novel. In 1871, the wildly famous
What the Harry?
English novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton published a science fiction story about a traveler who fell into an underground world ruled by a superior race called the Vrilia. The people that lived there were taller, calmer, and more beautiful than us, and contemptuous of us wielding that all-purpose energy, Vril. And these people fully intended to come up one day and replace us. This was
Scary.
all
I would say scary.
made up. Bulwer Lytton said so himself. He wrote privately that
Yeah. Well, okay, if it's made up, never mind.
he'd meant Vril as a kind of
Still, the whole notion of, people living under us. I have an avid imagination, okay? There's a weird thing about imagination, actually. I did think the imagination, the reason we don't really consider it to be authoritative, I guess, is because it almost by necessity, I say by necessity, innately, it tends to warp reality. It tends to alternatively hyperbolize certain aspects and either minimize or completely eliminate others. So it's a little bit strange the way it works, but it's not something that is something we generally take very seriously, I think, because of that, because of the fact that it's not really true to life. It's not like a conceptualization. It's a more loosey-goosey in the way it interprets reality.
imagined electricity, which was developed into uses as
It is intriguing, though. The whole notion of caricatures or stuff like that, like the ways in which a human brain actually warps reality when stuff gets inside. That's very intriguing.
yet only dimly guessed. He just made it all up, like L. Ron Hubbard made up Scientology and the lore behind that. People...
That was interesting. Like, we'd watched that video. L. Ron Hubbard he had wrote a book, and then later on, he was a science fiction writer, and then later on, I think he somehow adopted those novels into a system of beliefs or something.
They've been making shit up for a really long time. I love people making shit up. It's fun. Human lore is the best lore. Did you know rubbing onion on your scalp often makes you fit in better at onion-based social events? So after this guy made that up, the woman who built modern occultism, who made a lot of stuff up, got a hold of it. Helena Blavatsky.
Which?
Godwin called her the most fecund source of ideas on our subject. By the way, fecund, one of my favorite words of all time. She started writing about Vril as if it were just real, and taught that humanity had
I have to look that one up. I don't actually know what that means.
passed through a series of root races, one of which had come from a lost homeland in the far north, a polar paradise, a superior people. You might notice that I keep saying north, but Antarctica is south, and the Nazis went south, New Swabia. There's a lot of overlap. The north and south difference is kind of, it's obviously very different. They're literally opposites, but they both connect. See what I'm saying?
I get it.
See
No, I don't get it. It's weird, but
what I'm saying? It makes sense. So a made-up energy and a made-up
no, it doesn't.
master race were both promoted into ancient occult fact. It's way easier to make sure.
Well, I think Hitler, in spite of being very critical, I think of at least Christianity, I think he was quite critical of that. But I think he was really into the occult. Suppose they're not mutually exclusive.
Up back in these times. Still just as fun though. Now, take all that, look at what it becomes in the hands of, the Nazis. A handful of Austrian and German occultists took Blavatsky's northern modern race and turned it into something a lot more extreme. The belief that the true master race was a bloodline of blonde, blue-eyed godmen that descended from a vanished polar civilization, and one of those German-Austrian men ran an occult order that admitted only blonde, blue-eyed members, but a lot of those guys...
They're all jaundiced. I don't know.
they looked
I think blonde hair and blue eyes are technically both recessive, but I think actually red hair and blue eyes would maybe be more rare.
straight up inbred. The poster child...
I think there are a lot of people who would have blonde hair as kids, but then They kind of lose it as they get older or something. It becomes dirty blonde or something like that.
Of the Aryan Nazi master race movement looks nothing like the average high-ranking Nazi. I mean, what?
Sorry. It's a little bit funny. Sorry, Charlie Kirk. Respect to the dead.
Is this, dude?
Again, I think he would probably laugh at it too.
I mog all of these syphilis.
Wait, so maybe this is me being offensive to Charlie. That looks like Charlie to me.
Infected incels.
Apparently, Mogged is here to stay.
I'm German. Let me check my 23andMe, just so you guys know that I'm allowed to talk about this. Oh shit, I have a highly increased likelihood of PTSD, apparently. Since when does it tell me health?
How can you have a likelihood of PTSD? Like, I assume PTSD is just something that I kind of assume PTSD was something that was just universal that you would get if you were through like a really traumatic event. But maybe there are people who have a potential for that traumatic reaction to a greater degree. And just notice his hat is corduroy. I don't know how I feel about that.
Stuff. This is not good. I'm gonna spiral. 40 out of 100 people with genetics like yours have been diagnosed with PTSD by their 40s? I think I'm fine. Probably. And all this fed straight into a Munich group founded in 1918 called the
Gesellschaft.
Thule Society, or I thought it was for a long time Thule, but researching it, it's Thule.
I feel let down.
Which is weird. It looks like Thule. And their real, very documented importance is pretty simple and pretty chilling.
So it's like a wacky swastika, right? That's what this is, right? It's just a...
I guess is a good word. It bankrolled the tiny political party at the time that a young Adolf Hitler would walk into, take over, and rebuild into the Nazi party. You can probably see why this specific fantasy caught this specific regime. They had a hidden master race, a lost northern homeland. They went to the south to find stuff in the south or what. I don't know. It's a lot of weird speculation, but you know, secret godlike powers. To them, this was not LARPing or some kind of bedtime story. To them, it was a look in the mirror. They looked in the mirror and didn't see this.
Shit is wrong. Okay, we'll edit on this. This guy looks like some sort of stupid, pudgy schoolboy. Maybe it's just because they're like super tight shorts or whatever the crap, but dude. I thought the Nazis were supposed to be snappy dressers. This just looks ridiculous. And I don't like the look of his knees. You ever watch complete tangent again? Do you ever watch Jeeves and Wooster? There's a fellow called Roderick Spode, who I believe kind of styled himself after fascist dictator type things. And he runs a group of people called the Black Shorts, I think. Which again, I'm pretty sure that's styled after, you know, either I think it's this dude actually. Was this the brown shorts or brown shirts or something? I think that was Hitler's thing. Anyways, you guys can go watch the rest of this if you want. Interesting, intriguing sort of thing. What are the rest here? The Real Secret Antarctica Operation High Jump. Yeah, go check out the rest of that if you want.